this concept that a robot, not a human, is going to choose your product or not choose your product, that's very scary.
I like to think about it as building relationships at scale. It's the relationship between the company and its customers and the customers and each other. It's really distinct and different from other forms of marketing.
I've got to say, there's nearly 4 million Muslims in the UK. Nothing to panic about. We're good. We like to have fun. So it's more important than ever before that representation is right and on brand.
And marketeers don't feel confident that they have the data to connect all the dots to get from marketing to the business outcome.
Welcome to Distilled. We're live again, and we're here to bring you insights, intelligence, and innovation, brought to you by International Creative Practice Distillery. I'm Steve Ween, CEO of Distillery. Thank you for joining us today, whether you're on YouTube or LinkedIn Live or Instagram. Make sure you join the conversation, please, because we'll be taking a Q&A at the end of today's discussion. Use the chat feature that is under the video on YouTube or beside the video, I believe, on LinkedIn. Now, so far in the series, we've distilled topics around DEI, looked at the B2B metrics that matter. We've dove deep into AI. And on the last episode, we dove into the power of community building with Josh Zirkel. Today, we're turning the lens to customer marketing. It's something we're incredibly passionate about here at Distillery, as we've seen the business impact, the incredible business impact that successful customer marketing can have within the organizations that we work with, whether that's influencing the C-suite, driving decision making in decision makers, or educating the developers and everything in between. Over the past 18 months, we've been working on our living white paper, and it's been viewed thousands and thousands of times. For Beyond the Case Study, we selected expert customer marketers from organizations such as Google, Okta, Snowflake, Soldo, Do It International, and many, many more to build out a resource that covers everything from proving ROI on customer marketing to awards programs to successfully growing global customer marketing programs. So one of those contributors is joining me today, and I'm dead excited for this one. One of my favorite takeaways from her contribution to our living white paper was titled Where Value Drives Growth. And she talks about the WIIFM factor. Okay, I've just made up that acronym. We all love a good acronym in marketing. It's the what's in it for me factor. And it's about how customer advocacy isn't about you. It's about the value that you deliver. So joining me today, we've got Maya Avitan, and she is a tech marketing expert. She's got over a decade of experience. She's the founder of Marketing by Maya, and that's a consultancy that provides essentially a CMO as a service solution that helps B2B tech companies succeed. And she has a real focus on clients in the DevOps and the cloud space. Previously, she was the marketing lead at Do It International, which is where we first met. We'll be diving in deep there. And she's also, leading this global cloud consultancy. Now, she was the first marketing hire at Do It International, and one of the key, it's such a great part to Maya's story. She was instrumental in scaling the marketing team as the company grew from 30 to now over 600 employees. She's also held roles at Waze, Google, Mass Challenge. Beyond work, she's also an active speaker, now live streamer and panelist, and she's a dedicated volunteer and mentor, and she's passionate about helping women and immigrants break into tech. So without further ado, let's dive in. A huge welcome, Maya. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome, and you're joining us all the way from New York. Thank you. In preparation for this chat, we've uncovered so much. There's so many different directions we might go in. And I think one of the key pieces for our audience today that I'd like them to leave with is not only some concrete real life examples, but also those actionable insights and ideas that we're going to uncover. Because, you've worked with, your CV is incredibly impressive. You've worked with organizations of all sizes. Now, that also comes with a multitude of different opportunities and challenges, resources, budgets, capabilities. And I think, let's start there. I want to dive into the current opportunity for customer marketers from your point of view.
Amazing. So again, Steve, thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to the conversation. And like you said, I think our goal is that everyone joining this live stream or watching and anywhere will be able to take away actionable insights no matter their company size. So kind of going back to your question, I think that first it's important to just talk about customer marketing for a second and where it is in the landscape. So customer marketing has really, really taken center stage, not just within marketing teams, but also as a core part of the greater go-to-market strategy for many companies. Today, we're engaging customers not just through traditional case studies, but also things like testimonials, webinars, events, customer forums. For more developed customer marketing teams, you'll also see things like co-marketing initiatives or even entire alliance programs that help them achieve their own go-to-market goals. So now let's talk about opportunities. So I see two main opportunities in this larger customer marketing strategy. One is retention and one is acquisition. So in terms of retention, keeping a customer engaged and away from churning is simply good business. Something I mentioned in my thought leadership piece is that research shows that acquiring a new customer can cost 5 times more than retaining an existing one. So that means that a well-executed customer marketing strategy is able to show our commitment to customers' ongoing success, which is then able to build loyalty and then able to build trust well beyond the initial sale. The second opportunity, which is what you and I think are going to probably be diving into more today, is that customer marketing, when done well, can also be a tool as a growth engine for acquiring new customers. As you and I know, when we work with many different organizations in terms of customer marketing, satisfied customers are your number one advocates. They provide a really strong sense of credibility. They're your most powerful growth engine. And they are able to provide an organic reach, which has a much lower acquisition cost.
And look, I couldn't agree with you more on those points there. And that's something we see consistently with those organizations that are really harnessing the opportunities in customer marketing, in the current state, wherever they are in their company's evolution. But I want to have a flip over to the other side of the coin, if you like, and putting the opportunity aside, what do you think is the biggest challenge in the current environment?
Yeah, so I think this is something that I certainly can speak for myself, and I'm sure everyone on the call can relate to. And there's a certain lack of humility with customer marketing. And again, I am just as guilty of this. So we forget as marketers, and especially customer marketers, that even our happiest of customers are also very, very busy. So they're focused on their own products. They're also customers themselves of multiple other companies' products and services. And so while our monthly customer newsletter is very interesting, or our customer roundtable is very engaging, we need to remember that even our happiest of customers are not staying up late at night anxiously reading our newsletter. So I think that lack of humility sometimes can impact our programs.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's aligning those objectives, isn't it? We've all got different objectives where we've got KPIs to hit. We're really looking at driving ROI. And I think you have a really interesting take on ROI, as we were discussing this earlier. Actually, your take is, really looking at the ROT.
Yeah, so this is something, Steve, that I think you and I could talk about and have literally a separate live stream just on this topic. It's something I'm really, really passionate about, and I'm very happy to connect with anyone offline about it. In terms of return on investment and return on time, this is something that is important in all areas of the company, not just in marketing, but in every area of the company. We can all agree on this. However, only more so, a very stringent return on investment and return on time needs to be focused when it has to do with our customers. Customers are extremely busy and their time is very precious. So this is something that I am very, very ruthless about, both with myself and with my team, that before launching any kind of customer marketing initiative, to really ask yourself, what's in it for the customer and how much time will be required of them. So for example, how will taking part in our customer marketing initiative, whether it be a case study or a webinar or being part of an alliance program or a roundtable, how will taking part in any of those initiatives actually benefit them? Will it, for example, provide greater visibility for the company? Will it provide greater visibility for them as a thought leader? Will it provide good networking opportunities for those in the same field of a certain level? Will it be an interesting event experience? If you cannot articulate a clear benefit, it's time to rethink if you should even launch the program. I see this a lot with invitations to customer breakfast. Steve, I know you and I were joking about that earlier. I get lots of invitations to breakfast where the agenda is typically focused on product updates, where the company will share what's on their product roadmap. And there's very little thought into the what's in it for me. So again, whenever doing any kind of customer marketing initiative, the thought constantly needs to be what is in it for them, not about how it can benefit me and my company, but how is it going to benefit the customer.
And to really understand the benefit for the customer, you need to understand what's of benefit to the customer. You need to understand where their organization is heading, what pain points that they have, what's on the roadmap. And I think the fundamental shift is in those breakfasts, rather than having a broadcast conversation, is building in that having an actual conversation, a two-way conversation, and really feeding that feedback loop, if you like.
Totally.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that you actually mentioned that one of the other thought leaders actually had come up with kind of this idea that for every breakfast, you should be getting feedback from the customer, not giving them product updates, right? So the idea is that you're able to listen to your customers and not talk to them. Because at the end of the day, with all due respect, customers can read the product updates in a quick email. They don't need to come all the way to your breakfast for that.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, when we start looking at that, that time investment, really making sure that we're making the most of people's very, very valuable time.
Totally.
And turning that lens to content and creating content that maximizes, perhaps you have an hour with a customer for an interview. It's something we're crazy passionate about at Distillery. Really making sure that we're squeezing the assets to make sure we're getting that ROT for customers. I think we brought you on board in terms of squeezing the assets.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a little bit of credit here. So I actually learned squeezing the asset from you, Steve, 5 years ago. We started working together in 2019, and it's one of our initial strategy sessions. And the idea of squeezing the asset is something that I have integrated strongly into the marketing strategy for me and my teams at basically every company I've worked at since then. So the idea here is, first of all, a foundational marketing piece, and then we'll drill it down into how it affects customer marketing. So the idea is to really think about how to squeeze every last bit of value from an asset. And this is relevant to teams and companies of all sizes, and only more so how to, again, drive value back to customers. So for example, if we're executing a case study, I don't just create a standalone piece. A lot of work goes into creating case studies, both for internal teams, for the customer, for any partners. And now it's time to get every last drop of value that we can get out of it. So for example, I will integrate the case study into all of our sales enablement materials, things like one-pagers, things like sales decks, white papers. I'll then take out pull quotes and add it as social proof for our company's website. I'll create multiple social media posts from the case study content, and then we'll have that scheduled for about 3 months to kind of create the cadence and a sustained visibility. And now I think we should talk about taking it one step further, and I'll give a real life example for this. So besides squeezing the asset for the top of funnel sales enablement materials, like I mentioned, that the one pager and the pitch deck, what if we also squeeze the asset for lead generation? And most importantly to me again here is how can we squeeze the asset for those additional opportunities for the customer? So a real life example that I'm currently working on, I'm working with an amazing DevOps company, and we're working on a joint case study with a cloud reselling partner, and we're spotlighting our mutual customer, which is a food tech company. So we had a case study interview, like Steve mentioned, an hour interview with the VP of engineering, who is extremely busy. The interview with the VP engineering went very well. He's incredibly well-spoken. He's also a fantastic advocate for both companies. So I thought, we already have this really great content. What if we can then turn that into a lead generating webinar for the DevOps company and the cloud reseller? We have a very similar ICP. It's a highly technical audience, so lead sharing there is very attractive. And for the customer, we're able to drive significant value to them here as well. So there's two areas here. One is providing greater visibility for their brand. And two is that they're very interested at the moment in hiring and employer branding. So it positions them for employer branding in front of a highly technical audience, and then they're able to attract new engineering talent.
And so I think that circles back very nicely to really understanding where your customers are going, really having that conversation, because you've taken the time to make sure you're understanding the company's objectives, where they're going, so you're delivering that ROI.
Exactly. I think I'm going to stop you there, because I think that you're honing in on exactly what you and I talk about all the time, which is bringing that value. So what I could have done, for example, is say we're running a webinar and we're going to generate leads. But we have to then stop and think, wait, but I know that this company is really interested in hiring right now. So they have a totally different ICP. So I can't really help them generate customers in the ICP, but we have a highly technical audience. They're trying to hire quality engineers. We can help pump them up. We can do some social posts about hiring, and then we're able to drive value to them.
Mm-hmm. I think as well, what we look at Distillery is really building strategic roadmaps where we're bringing together different audiences. I talked before about segmenting across, the C-suite or IT decision makers or developers. Really taking that audience, then segmenting it by industry, by region, having a look at those different data points, bringing those in around challenges in the industry, for example, opportunities in industry. And then bringing those three things together and making sure we're delivering messaging at the right time on the right platform. And I think at the moment, I know at the moment, there's a plethora of AI options out there for content creation, for content and content delivery. And I think one of the questions that has come through on the chat is really around this plethora of content, and my team can now make all of this kind of content, and we're being bombarded with content, but it's not really getting cut through. Do you have any thoughts there, around content creation, aligning that with a strategic approach and great partners?
Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of playbooks. Everyone who works with me knows about this. I have a playbook for events, for case studies, for blogs, for everything. And the idea is that you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Certainly with AI tools, it makes it only easier. So for example, we talked about using this case study to then drive tons of content. So we have these amazing tools these days. ChatGPT, I'm a huge fan of. And you can literally take this wonderful case study that was created, put it into ChatGPT and say, I want to create a really engaging hour-long webinar. I'd like to, number one, have a goal of generating leads. Number two, spotlight my customer for employer branding. Help create an outline for this. You can put that same case study using AI tools like ChatGPT or others and say, I'd like to now squeeze this asset. Give me 4 pull testimonial quotes and 2 social posts. So you can absolutely create these playbooks and also use AI tools to make it a much simpler process and then squeeze that asset even easier.
Yeah, and I think a build on that is, the data or the content that you're going to create out of that process is only good as the data input. So if you don't have the right data from the customer, if you don't have a really solid interview, solid knowledge of the customer's business, where the direction of travel, the challenges that I mentioned before, you're not going to be able to create the right assets with the right message. And of course, Distillery, we're all about creativity made to measure. So how are you measuring the performance of those assets? Look at the measurement around the performance of the assets, and really aligning that with the ROI that's set up at the beginning of the campaign.
Yeah, totally.
I'd like to just, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, it's okay. I know we have so much more to talk about, so I'll let you keep going.
So much more. Keep those questions coming in. We've got a couple of great questions already. But if you're listening at home or at the office or on your phone, wherever you're listening, drop in some more questions, because I'm really excited to hear what's on your mind. I'd like to turn the lens towards a question that came in around the size of customer marketing programs or point in their journey, because at Distillery we've got this unique little window into all sorts of organizations, and that we see how different organizations of different sizes at a different point in their journey, their customer marketing journey, is how they're operating, how they're set up. The question that's come in is all around the advice that you give to a customer marketing program that's at the beginning of their journey. What advice would you give them? Imagine it's your first month in the job, in a new program. Let's start there.
Amazing. So I get this question all the time. And for those in the audience, you might be listening to this and saying, this is all really interesting. I believe in customer marketing. I see its value, but we have a really small headcount or a small marketing team, or we don't have budget, or we don't have buy-in, and this all feels really overwhelming. So I would say, and again, this comes up all the time, that you can just start small. I'll give an example from myself. In my early days at my time at Do It, we had a very small headcount. I think the marketing team was 4 people. It was the very beginning of COVID, and I wanted to start creating customer marketing programs, but again, had very little resources. So one thing I did is I noticed that many of our customers were coming from a very similar space, all sort of this DevOps cloud and cybersecurity space, and that they were each other's ideal customer profile, and that they were also dealing with very similar go-to-market challenges. So I created an event called the Do It Product Exchange. I think it took me 2 weeks to launch this event. It was really scrappy and really bootstrapped. And the idea is that we had 12 customers present their solutions to our larger customer community. And the result of this, again, very small initiative I created was incredible. We had new go-to-market partnerships for our customers. We had a very significant boost in customer satisfaction. In fact, we had tons of emails coming in saying, I watched the Do It Product Exchange. How can I too participate in this? And it very much deepened the loyalty. And then more exciting is that this very small event that I created would end up becoming the POC for what would become a highly successful, full-blown customer alliance program that exists up until today, and it's called ISV Go Global. So again, I know, Steve, this is a question that comes up all the time, and the idea is that you can always start small, right? You don't need to get headcount and launch a full customer marketing program today. You can start one event even literally this month, and start working on a great event. Use that as a POC, get buy-in, and then start building out a full-scale program.
That's a fantastic case study, Maya. That's wonderful advice. I want to cut to a couple of questions now, if you don't mind.
Sure.
One of the questions, circling back to really squeezing the assets. If a customer agrees to a case study once, do you ask for approval every time you squeeze the asset? How does that approval process work?
Yeah, so this is actually a great question. I'm really happy you asked. And this means that you should have a really close relationship with your legal team. So something I did when I was at Do It, and I've done with every single organization since then that I consult for, is I work with the legal team to basically change the clause that's in a standard customer contract. And that basically, the clause will say that we have the right to name you as our customer, and that it can be used in, and it lists a very extensive list of places that this naming can go. It can be a website and pitch decks and all kinds of materials. And so too, the same kind of release that a customer fills out to be in the case study should also be as extensive as possible. And that means that you do not need to go back to the customer as you squeeze the asset. So again, number one would be just having that close relationship with your legal team to make sure you're protected. And number two is that, again, when I pitch any of these initiatives to customers, I'm telling them that we are going to work as hard as we can to squeeze the asset, meaning I will say, we'd love to feature you in this case study. And that means that we will be able to give you greater exposure, both for your team and yourself, on our website, on our sales decks, on our sales enablement materials, which really excites the customer, right? So the more we squeeze, the more visibility we're actually giving to the customer.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I think one of the questions that has also come in is around how do you build co-marketing plans efficiently? And I believe that building a great co-marketing plan right from the get-go with the customer also helps very much with the sign-off or asking for approval every time you squeeze the asset. And I think we're saying the same thing. It's about being strategic with the customer's time, with the data that you're collecting, and really seeing it as a co-marketing partnership rather than more of a transactional piece where we hit the case study button and job done.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna quickly bounce back on that. I think this is a great point you're making, because you said co-marketing partnership. And when it's done right, and when you have the resources to really focus in on those strategic customers, your customers become your partners, right? Many companies have partner marketing programs. And so very similarly, a customer marketer, you're treating your customer as your partner. So if you have the resources to develop a proper co-marketing plan with your customer, one of the very first things that you should be doing, I think, Steve, as you were alluding, is figuring out what are your goals and what are your pain points. I mentioned earlier on the live stream that for a customer we're working with, they're really interested in hiring right now. So that means that when we're developing programs with them, we can find ways to really highlight them in terms of hiring. Maybe another one of your customers is really having a hard time penetrating a new geographic market. Maybe that's what they're really focused on now. And so as you develop that program, you could say, oh, well, interesting. We're actually doing a webinar in the EMEA market, and I know that you're trying to penetrate there. Maybe we can get you on the agenda as a speaker, right? So I think being really in tune with what your customers need before you even start creating that plan.
I couldn't agree more. We've got another question that's come in. Let me read this out.
Sure.
My teams think that customer marketing isn't a specialty. I'm a recent hire, the first customer marketing hire. How do I approach that conversation? Show that customer marketing is a specific skill set. However, I do think that my organization does value customer marketing as they're investing in it.
Okay, so this question also comes up a lot, and I think that maybe we'll zoom out a little bit. So it's oftentimes that you come into a company and people are like, what's customer marketing? Is that part of partner marketing? Are you part of marketing? Are you part of customer success? Who are you? What do you do? I think this is a great opportunity to invest in cross-functional relationships. So one of, I think, the coolest and best parts of being in customer marketing is that you touch so many different areas of the organization. Typically, you're sitting under the marketing org, but you also work really closely with customer success and work really closely with your go-to-market sales team. So it's up to you as that new customer marketing professional to advocate, to be a real sound horn for what you're doing, to create those relationships so that if people are not sure exactly what customer marketing does, now they will know because you'll make sure that you've had that relationship. And of course, the absolute best way for people to know is when you start driving value, right? So you're coming in and you're creating those relationships and customers are really happy and they feel that their needs are being seen and met and they're being invited to take part in value-driven customer marketing activities. So all of that is now starting to bring a lot of success.
Yeah, fantastic. We've got a couple more questions.
Sure.
One is, okay, I think this is a good one for you.
Okay.
How do you scale a customer marketing program?
Yeah, so I think scaling a customer marketing program is really same as scaling any marketing program or really scaling any part of an organization. So I was very blessed, like I mentioned, at Do It. I joined as a very early part of the marketing team and was able to really grow with the company as I scaled just in a pretty tremendous way. So first is understanding what the company's needs are, what their resources are, and what your headcount is. So if you feel that, for example, you're part of a team and there is this amazing demand for what you're doing. For example, when I was at Do It, there was an endless list of customers who wanted to be featured in our case studies and all of our customer marketing activities. So it was very easy to then get buy-in, right, and say, okay, there is a need here. Our customers are dying to do case studies together. They are dying to be featured in our customer roundtables. They are dying to be featured in webinars, and it became very easy to get that approval. Once you had approval, you're talking about things like headcount, like hiring. I think it's also a really important piece that we can always have a separate discussion on, hiring the right people, deciding what geographies you want to expand in, and then moving. So definitely, all those pieces, but it's almost the same thing as scaling any kind of part in an organization, understanding what the goal is, what the needs are, and then finding the resources to make it happen.
Amazing. Thank you. We're at time. We still have a couple more questions.
Can we do one more question? Just one more. I'm having so much fun.
Yeah. Okay. There's one here around showing the value of customer marketing programs. We've touched on it a couple of times on a couple of different points. Do you have any thoughts there?
Totally. So I think that, first of all, showing value in general in marketing can sometimes be challenging. Marketing oftentimes is seen as the helpmate to sales. So it isn't always easy to attribute marketing and sales. That's always a separate conversation. Customer marketing is even harder because it's not always so easy to attribute customer marketing to retention. However, as I mentioned, I think a few questions before, it is up to you as a marketing professional to market yourself. If you are in charge of customer marketing, you need to market everything that you're doing. So if you are having those wins, if your customers are getting off of that webinar, and because they were on that webinar, they had 5 new quality engineering applicants come in. If your customers are now able to scale in EMEA because you were able to feature them on an EMEA event, that means that you need to now share that with your greater go-to-market org. Guys, I'm so excited that because of our customer marketing effort, we're able to provide real value for our customers. Of course, if you want to be very technical, you can work with your customer success teams, figure out churn rates, figure out attribution and activities. But I think even from a very basic level, right, for anyone on here who's part of a small startup, a very basic level is just make sure that you're marketing all the good work that you're actually doing.
And I think key to that is something that we see all the time. It's how how do you integrate what you're doing in terms of really aligning with cross-functional teams? So how are you aligning with sales? How are you aligning with the other teams within your organization? So it takes away from the function to the impact.
100%. Like I said before, again, as customer marketing, you are so lucky because you get to work every day with customer success, with all kinds of elements of the go-to-market and sales teams. And so exactly, when you are tooting your own horn, you're also tooting their horn, and you're helping really get visibility for your programs in the company.
Amazing. I think that's a great place to leave it. We could continue on for hours, and perhaps we'll do another live stream if you're up for it.
I would love it. There's so many more questions coming in. So anyone that we weren't able to get to, feel free to message us on LinkedIn, and we can continue the conversation. But this was so fun, Steve. I love this conversation.
Yeah, also, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time. And we're going to drop your LinkedIn in the comments under this video. And we're going to bring up a slide so you can have a QR code. Snap that, go connect with Maya on LinkedIn. She's got so much great stuff to share, so much more great stuff to share. And thank you again for joining us, Maya.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. Bye, guys.
Awesome. And we've had such an amazing response to our content on our YouTube channel. We've now got over 20,000 subscribers. Thank you to all of the new subscribers. Join the community. We've got some awesome discussions planned coming up in the future. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for your questions. I'm Steve Ween. I'm CEO of Distillery, where creativity is made to measure. Looking forward to seeing you next time.